I move that the member for St. Andrew South East, Southwest, St. Andrew Southwest be suspended for the duration of the rest of the sitting of the House.
Those in favor? Madam Speaker. Those against? Those against? No, that's not allowed. Those against? Those against? The ayes have it.
And, you know, let me back up a little bit, because as often happens in media, we know these issues, we understand them well, we run ahead with them, and sometimes we leave a few people behind. I mean, our audience is filled with people who've understood these things over time. We're not talking to you alone. According to the JIS, I'm reading from the website of the Jamaica Information Service now, under their Get the Facts tab. The mace is an ornamented staff used in Jamaican parliamentary ceremonies and sessions. It represents the monarch's authority over such proceedings. It was once used, JIS says, as a weapon in medieval times by foot soldiers. It is present at every session, as Parliament is not properly constituted without its presence in the room. It continues this Get the Facts article on the GIS website. The mace at Gordon House, the home of Jamaica's Parliament, is made of silver and is 5 feet 6 inches long. It was ordered by the House of Assembly in 1786 and arrived the following year. Mm-hmm. At the start of each sitting of Parliament, GIS says, the mace is carried in by the Marshal ahead of the entry of the presiding officer, and in brackets, the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate. The mace is placed on the table of the House, where it remains until it is removed at the end of each session by the Marshal. Mm-hmm. The mace, however, must be placed under the table when the entire House meets as a committee to examine a bill in its second stage of review. Stick a pin. Now, if you noticed at one point during the video we played just now, and for audio for those people listening, the speaker said, Marshal, please lift the mace. I don't want to say lift back, but put the mace where it was, because it was up. It was in the position for the committee meeting, because the whole House is meeting as the House of Representatives. How these things work. The whole House is meeting as the committee, as the House of Representatives. Then when you're examining the bill clause by clause, the House then becomes a committee, and the Speaker now becomes the chairperson, not the Speaker in this regard. So you shift the position of the mace when you're in the committee stage, and when you're back in the House stage, you put it back in its original place. So that was the instruction from Mrs. Holness to the Marshal, to put it back in the place, because we're now in the House, because there are matters, a certain matter we have to deal with at the House level, and then we go back into committee stage. So it's shifted based on what is happening in the House, yeah? The presiding officer, as I noted, once the mace is placed under the table when the House meets as a committee to examine a bill in its second stage of review. In this instance, the presiding officer is functioning as a chairman, which is why you note, on the floor of the Parliament, Tawna, members are not referred to as Mr. Green, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Holness. The House doesn't recognize names. The House recognizes constituencies. A member Paulwell, member, exactly. But in committee stage, it's different.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Now the JIS article says,
which is why she referred to the chairman referred to Dr. Brown-Burke as Angela Brown-Burke.
There you go. The JIS website says, the removal of the mace by any person other than the Marshal is viewed as a sign of disrespect and contempt of Parliament. Not our words, not Nationwide's words. This is what I'm reading from the Jamaica Information Service's website. It says the removal of the mace by any person other than the Marshal is viewed as a sign of disrespect and contempt of Parliament. This is what Dr. Angela Brown-Burke did on Tuesday. The article continues. In the past, 3 parliamentarians removed the mace from the House and abruptly stopped the sessions. Since its removal, signifies the end of meetings. So if you wonder what's the significance of them move that you iron something there. Because traditionally, for hundreds of years, once you move it while something is happening, then it signals that the proceedings have been abandoned, have ended abruptly. That's what Dr. Angela Brown-Burke did, in case you're wondering what's the significance of this mace. And as I noted, this JIS article says the mace arrived after being ordered in 1786. It's a hell of a long time, that.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Where are we with our script now? Oh, I think we should take a break.
Yes.
We should take a break, David, and come back and pick up. Debate on the NARA bill and then the examination, clause by clause, two different things. Examination, clause by clause, of the legislation, the act, a bill to create the NARA legislation. Closing the debate on the bill, Prime Minister Holness responded to the opposition's recommendation that the legislation be referred to a joint select committee of Parliament.
There is a point about bringing the bill to a joint select committee. Let me be clear. We on this side, we have taken a decision that as far as possible, we're bringing all our bills to a joint select committee. That's a decision that we took after the experience with the NIDS. Subject, of course, to emergency situations or great urgency. I have heard the undertaking that there would be a commitment on the side of the opposition to have the Joint Select Committee turned around very quickly. And we accept the intention, but we know that it takes a little while. And on average, you're looking at 3 to 6 weeks at the minimum, and sometimes even longer. So I would say I'm being generous, I'm being euphemistic, but it takes a long time. So I would say, Madam Speaker, that I appreciate the opposition recognizing that the joint select committees are not the fastest mechanism that they will try, but for this bill, urgency is important. And I start at this point about urgency. And I'm being very careful in the use of the term urgency, because I really should say it is an emergency. But I wish to point out to members who were in the House between 2009 and 2015 that this House, not under emergency powers, but under urgency, passed several important pieces of legislation that would oversee billions of dollars, including donor funds, without subjecting them to any committee review, any joint select committee review, including money bills, including the very fiscal rules, which are far more important than the NARA bill. There was not 1 ounce of criticism of that move, not one. At that time, part of that time, I was leader of the opposition. And the members on my side will tell you that I gave directives. This is in the national interest. Participate. Make sure that our points are raised, but we are not going to stand in the way or try to make political points of something that is in the national interest. And I wish for that to be in the public record. The fiscal rules and all the others, some of the other money bills, all the other amendments that were made, went through without going to Joint Select Committee. And not one journalist, not one of the commentators today said anything.
The Prime Minister also addressed the governance structure of NARA.
The Executive Agency Act provides for the executive to have an advisory board. how it works is that the executive recommends, the Prime Minister appoints, but it's not a governance board. It's not a governance board. And it advises the CEO. Now, what we did with NARA, we looked at it and we said the functions of NARA are going to be very specific. More than that, members, it is time bounded. So this is not going to go on indefinitely. And the policy direction for NARA will be very clear. They will be written and made public. But more than that, the scope of NARA, I heard somebody say NARA is not narrow. That's not true. NARA will be focused on a specific set of projects that will be published. The other issue that I would want to clarify, though, that the use of this structure, NARA, focused in this way, does not take away from existing resources. And that was a prime consideration in the creation of NARA. The member from St. Catherine Eastern and the member from St. Mary's Central raised the issue that what is going to happen is that NARA is going to suck up the approval resources, and a lady who wants to build her house and recover from the hurricane, her approval will be left behind. That is not true, member, and you should take great comfort that that is not so. And so the lady who is listening and feels that you are representing her should have great comfort that that is not the case. That NARA is designed to operate in parallel with, not in competition. And NARA is designed in such a way that the resources that it will have are going to be on top of what exists in the regular system. So it's not going to take away from the regular system. And just to be clear, when Hurricane Melissa hit, my direction was the half of Jamaica that was not hit needs to work twice as hard to make up for the part of Jamaica that was hit. And, it's clear that the productive elements in the country that were not impacted, they have put out the effort. And those who were impacted, they have also put out the effort. And what we are seeing is that the recovery is going to come much sooner than we had initially predicted. And so in no way would we structure NARA for it to take away from the regular resources that we are encouraging to work even harder. So NARA will not take away from the regular resources.
The Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, more from the Parliament yesterday afternoon into this morning after the break. Mad at the Speaker's reaction to Dr. Brown Burke's antics than those that are mad at Dr. Brown Burke's antics. And why? I don't know. I don't know, man.
Well, it goes to show, George, about how a lot of people feel about order in this country.
Yes.
Many of them disregard order and just do what they feel like.
Freestyle.
What about the rules?
Everything free for all.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to come to that PAAC bit in a minute. But before we play for you what the Prime Minister said in responding to concerns that he solely would have the responsibility for appointing the CEO of NARA, before we get to that, there was a moment last evening that proved controversial. There was a vote on an amended clause, and the Speaker, the chairperson, the chairman of the proceedings, Juliet Holness, acknowledged the Member of Parliament for West Central St. James, Marlene Malahou-Fort, and asked her, Mrs. Malahou-Fort, are you voting yea or nay to the clause as amended? And Malahou-Fort made a citation, and she was being, prompted to answer quickly so they could move on. And from where I sat, I heard her say nay, which was surprising to me, given that what she said before answering nay was at variance, because it's almost like you're saying, it's almost like saying, you know, I believe blue is the right color for the sky, but I'm voting yes to red being the color for the sky. It never makes sense. So immediately opposition members said, you know, cheering, say, well, one more for us. Mm-hmm. But then very shortly after, and before the tally was taken, crucially, there was a clarification sought, and Mrs. Malawufut was saying, no man, I voted yes. I didn't vote nay. And Mrs. Holness was saying, well, I wasn't sure what you said. I mean, is it yea or nay? But I heard nay. I can tell you that I heard, and you should have seen my face. I say, what? Based on your explanation? Yeah. Because if you never explain that you vote nay, I mean, neither here nor there, but based on your explanation, why is it that you, and then Colonel Charles Jr. intervened to say, no man, she actually voted yes, not nay, and he went into the explanation again. And this proved controversial because it could have been registered as a nay vote supporting the opposition side, and I guess Mrs. Malawufut was keen to not so do on that clause. So it caused, there was a moment around that. Anyway, the Prime Minister also responded to concerns that he would have responsibility for appointing the CEO of NARA.
The other area of concern seems to be that it is the Prime Minister who appoints the CEO. So there are different methodologies of appointing CEOs, depending on the structure that is employed. It is not unusual for the appointment to be from the Prime Minister for certain entities. No, there are some entities that the Governor General appoints. But it's not unusual for the Prime Minister to, or the Minister in charge of the industry, the ministry to appoint. I want to be clear that the post of CEO for NARA was internationally advertised. Internationally. We got several dozen applications, many of them from all over the world. We appointed a very high-level interview panel, review committee. I don't have the members who are on it, but I know I should probably say it, just to be clear, the Cabinet Secretary, my recollection, the head of the Port Authority, Professor Gordon Shirley, who also is the chair of our Police Services Commission, the head of the Transformation Implementation Unit, the TIU, was also a member, and a few other persons. So there is no involvement of me directly or personally in vetting any CVs or shortlisting anyone. I want that to be publicly known. So there is a distance, a healthy distance between myself and the process of finding, interviewing. I also want to point out that there seems to be a concern about concentration. I've heard that centralization is a term used. That NARA seems to centralize power and authority in, sometimes the criticism is centralizes it in the CEO or centralizes it in the minister. In the executive model, it is a deliberate strategy. The whole idea was that the diffusion of the responsibility is what caused the lack of performance, because you can't point on anyone to say you are responsible. And so when Dr. Carlton Davies crafted it, he said, you know, the rationale, he said that the primary, well, let me not say that, let me go ahead. The rationale was to ensure that responsibility is not diffused. That there is one focal point for which accountability can be effective. That was the idea. And I would want Jamaicans to appreciate that your government is very sensitive to any concentration, any centralization that may lead to unregulated, unwieldy executive power. That's not our intention.
To be the CEO of NARA, I don't think I'd want that work.
Yeah.
Any at all.
The NARA CEO is going to have a lot on his or her shoulder, especially because of what you said to George during the What's on My Mind segment, that so much is riding on NARA. Yeah. You have to get the big things done, get them done in time, and there has to be a lot of transparency and accountability in all of those efforts.
And every group is going to request audience with you to ask questions about this, that, and you have to make yourself available. The moment you say you're not available, you hide something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about that NARA is doing projects that will be approved by Cabinet for sure, but also those fast-track projects, those strategic projects that investors will be coming in for. So many things that the NARA CEO and that body will have to take care of over the next couple of years. Yeah.
There are jobs and there are jobs, and boy, to the person who gets this role, good luck to you. You're going to need a lot of it. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mentioned in my What's on My Mind something that I disagree with, and it is the stance of the chairman of the PAAC that parliamentary staff who have been at it since yesterday afternoon, because the cameras start rolling on PBCJ for the sitting of the House around about 2:15. They're there from long before that, from in the morning, setting up, getting ready. So they've been working. And they didn't go home. They didn't leave the chamber until about 2 a.m. this morning. Before they left, clearly there was a message sent to the speaker to say, see if you can appeal to the chairman of the PAAC, Peter Bunting, to postpone the sitting scheduled for today, this Wednesday, so that we could just refresh ourselves and we can come back because of the thing being so long. Listen to this exchange, listeners, viewers.
Madam Speaker, we have one more matter, which is to move for the adjournment of the House. And as such, I ask that the House be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
On adjournment, I would just like for the record to indicate it is now 1:50 a.m. The staff present here, other than the actual committee clerk for the PAAC, all the staff present here, all the orderlies, the legal officers would be required to be here at 10 a.m. I do anticipate that we may have challenges. The chairperson for the committee has insisted that they are going ahead with the meeting tomorrow. Regardless, I am following the standing orders strictly to the letter, and so I apologize on behalf of the Parliament and its administration to the employees in respect of their health and wellness in requiring that they find themselves here to facilitate the request of the chair despite this late hour of the morning. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, just on that point, I will ask the Leader of Opposition to see if he can convey to the chair of the committee that we believe in the circumstances with the House sitting until basically 2 a.m. that the committee meeting be postponed to ensure that the staff who are here with us and who have far distances to travel will not be compelled to be here at that time. So we ask that the Leader of Opposition business impress upon his colleague that that is the view of the members. No.
The question is that we do adjourn the House for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Right. So, just in case anybody thought that we were, we didn't read the situation right. The chairman of the PAAC, who by this time had left the same parliamentary staff who were at it before him on Tuesday and who sat through the whole thing because they had to. He had the luxury of leaving, yeah, and insisting that those he left behind turn up for the PAAC scheduled for this morning. And if that is not punishing people, I don't know what is. To what end? Oh boy. We break for across Jamaica.